Hey everybody, Ray Davenport, your Director of Sports Performance, and today I want to go over one of my favorite core exercises for training anti-rotational core stability. The reason that's important in a lot of our sports, tennis, pickleball, golf, we're rotating a lot. We need to be able to control and stabilize at the end of those motions and at the beginning. So let's talk about it. Let's grab a set of bands and we'll get started. So when we talk about core stability, we think about flexion, extension, rotation, and side bending. Anti-rotation, as I said earlier, is going to be what we focus on with the Palloff press. I've got this set of bands anchored to my rig right here, and the first thing I want to do is show you the neutral kind of standing version, and then we'll go into some of the alternatives, one a step back and one maybe a little more challenging depending on where you're at. So let's start. We're going to take our feet about hip width apart. I'm going to have a pretty neutral spine, but I am going to give myself just a little forward lean. We know when we're doing any sort of athletic activity like pickleball or golf, we do have that hip hinge. So hips are going back just a little bit, knees are slightly bent. I'm going to bring those hands center of the chest, and I'll show you the face-on view here in a second as well. And all we're going to do is try to keep those elbows in, keep the shoulders back, keep that same hip hinge, and as we push out, that band's going to want to pull us in. Now that I could come out a little bit more to give myself a little more challenge here and maybe even back up just a touch, so we're going a little more straight out. So here from the face-on view, you can see my elbows get closer as I go out. I'm not reaching forward or bowing those elbows out. That's going to help me feel it in the trunk and not the chest or shoulder. And then make sure that those feet are tucked right under those hips. Maybe even pausing out, but you can see that band is staying right on my sternum. We don't want to be too high, don't want to be too low. All right, so the next version is going to be a kneeling version. Now this is if maybe you weren't feeling as stable and comfortable in that standing version. The closer we get to the ground, the easier it should be. I realize kneeling may not work for you, so stick with that standing version if that's the case, but this should make it a little bit easier. We are rooted onto one of these X pads through the knees. We're up tall, hips are engaged, and we're just going to perform that same press out, keeping the hands center of the body. Okay, there are a lot of variations to this particular exercise, but we're going to keep it real simple starting out, and we'll get into some of those more advanced versions down the road. Okay, challenge yourself in the 8 to 12 rep range. Stack another band on there if you need to make it a little more difficult. So lastly, we've got the staggered stance, and this is going to be a little more challenging for the hips. That's why it's more advanced, so we're getting that hip stability as part of it. So make sure that you've got that balance before you just jump straight to this progression. Same concept though, we're going to root into that front leg. I've got about maybe 15 to 20% of my weight on that back leg, mostly into that front leg, staying upright, keeping those legs nice and stable, pushing out, and you're going to feel by creating just that little bit of instability with the lower body, we're working a lot more muscle groups, but still keeping that nice stable base with a even breathing, smooth ability to talk. Do that for both sides again, 8 to 12 reps, challenging yourself depending on the cable or bands that you're using. So that's the Palloff press. That is one of the more basic versions. There are a lot of variations to each of those positions, but for now, focus on these core principles. When you're doing this Palloff press, you're going to develop some great anti-rotation stability in your trunk, which is only going to benefit you in your golf, your tennis, and your pickleball. If you have any questions on this movement, the Palloff press, or other movements that might help you develop that core stability for your sport, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help you however I can.